Tenakotu, Tenakotu, Tenakotu. Now my Harimai. Welcome to all of you in my not as perfect Maori, but something I'm keen on learning, and look forward to having all of you for an action-packed, information-packed evening organized by E3 Summit, president and founder of which is Shailesh, sitting right here amongst us. And Shailesh will be giving us some more information about the summit. My name is Anand Mukashi, and I am your MC, or being an online event, I would say MZ. Z for Zoom, and that means that I'll just coordinate the activities, manage the Zoom calls, and make sure that we all go through the event as planned. A quick overview. After this initial instruction and a bit of housekeeping, I will invite Shailesh to give us a brief idea about E3 Summit and what are his objectives, what are his goals behind the forum, as well as this particular event. After that, we'll have our first speaker, Sharneece, who will be talking to us. I'll introduce her quickly. She will share her thoughts with us, followed by the second speaker, Bronny, and then the third speaker, Honorable Michael Wood. He is with here as well, and we all look forward to hearing all three of the speakers. We will have a question answer right at the end. So if I can request you to just jot down your questions and in whom you would like to ask, and then we could have a question and answers right at the end. We aim to finish by about 8:15, and then we'll hang on till about 8:40. The last bit, 8:20 to 8:40, is for informal after events networking. The event is fully catered. We will have drinks and nibbles, and Shailesh has also promised a 12-course dinner. Because of lockdown restrictions, we will be having our own dinners at home, and we'll have to self-cater. But the intention was always there. So thank you, Shailesh. Next time, I'm sure you will organize everything that we are seeing now. So without further ado, let's get started. Shailesh, can you please jump in and tell us something about E3, something about the event quickly, and then we'll move on. Thank you, Shailesh.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you, Anand, for that introduction. And welcome, everyone, to this first live online event that after the launch that we did a successful on 1st of August, just last month. And we were envisaging this lockdown. We were envisaging uncertain times. But I didn't want it to get demotivated for business community. Basically, we can still do online, which is the beauty of this whole online situation. So I'm quite glad that we are kicking off this first event online. And what more than the topic is business resilience. But let me give you a little background of E3 Summit when we started just a month ago. We have got here our another associate here, Amit, with us. Amit Sule is also marketing and ground reality of business that he can talk about. The other, we have an apology from Vishwas, who was supposed to join us, but unfortunately he couldn't make it today due to his personal reasons. So, but I just want to say that E3 Summit is a concept that we wanted to do to bring the business community together, engage them, give them a platform to not just networking but actually share experiences and talk about the whole business that we want to take forward and not get demotivated with these uncertain times that we are in. So with further wasting another time of mine, I wanted to hand over to Amit, who can little bit talk about the way we have done so far. Amit, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Michael, for joining us. Hi, Bronny. Hi, Sharneece. Basically, as Shailesh told you all, we just started last month, and the purpose of the E3 is to bring together. There are so many questions business community is having right now, and that's why we wanted to integrate the business people and the leaders in the industry, and along with the ministry, so we can have some concrete solution. I definitely say government is doing a lot for everyone, so we should stop blaming each other. Like business community is blaming employees are blaming business people. So we don't want this to happen, and we need to streamline everything as soon as possible because this is uncertain time. So everybody have to, accept this truth and to move on the right path. So that's why we organize this event, so that everybody come to know about what is happening from the government and what's actually happening with the, ground level people, and what is actually happening with the business leaders. So yeah, that's all. And I hand over.
Thanks, Amit. Now, we got some beautiful and wonderful speakers, but first and foremost, I would like to thank our Honorable Minister Michael Wood for his valuable time to give to this. And he was also instrumental in launching this event. So as you can see, he has always been a supportive for the business community. So, which is what I really appreciate. We have got some great speakers here. Bronny Jacobson, who also comes from the business background and consultancy. So I would love to hear more from her. And also Sharneece Joyce, who is a young entrepreneur. And I would definitely like to hear from her at a young age, running many businesses. And not only that, but also it's uncertain time. And yet these are the people who are really showing the resilience and the confidence of running the business. So I am excited to hear from them and learn from them more as well today as we go. And then we will have the Q&A as we always, which Michael can give us a lot of insights from there as well. So over to Anand to start the whole event.
Thank you, Shailesh. So let me invite the first speaker, Sharneece Joyce. Sharneece is probably one of the youngest people in this entire group over here. And at an age of very early age, at just 27, she already has 9 enterprises under her belt, 6 businesses and 3 social enterprises. So she is truly a multi-mowpreneur, as she calls herself. And she has special interest in, apart from all her businesses, in helping the community, spreading the Maori language. She is very actively involved in a lot of social work. And as a person who juggles around with 9 entities at one time, who better than her to talk to us about business resilience and leveraging your time and managing it in these challenging times. Thank you for agreeing to speak to us, Sharneece. We look forward to hearing from you. Please welcome Sharneece Joyce.
Tēnā koutou katoa, ngā mihi nui kia koutou I te whānau, e karapiripiri mai nei, e hui topa, but ngā mihi nui kia koutou or korua at the moment, E3, but tēnā koutou katoa. So tēnā koutou everyone. I just wanted to do quick acknowledgements to our hosts, E3, for having us here. So ngā mihi korua. And my other guest speakers that are on here as well. I feel a little bit under pressure being first and going against 2 others that are amazing speakers in this field, but thank you for having me here. I don't have there's no secret to business or anything like that. And I'm a bit of a kōpara up here in the north, so I don't like to speak about myself. There's a whakatauki that you could go away and Google later. But it's kore e kōrero e taku kumara. So I don't talk about my sweetness. I usually allow others to do that for me. Yes, I'm a Maori entrepreneur, I call myself. The emphasis on there is Maui. So Maui-preneur rather than a multi-entrepreneur. Maui is one of my tupuna, and it's an Indigenous term that was adopted quite a few years ago from a lady, I should say, a whaia, and her name was Josie Keeland. She did a thesis on Maori-preneurship, which is about using Indigenous culture in your everyday business. And so the term Maui-preneur came through there. I enjoyed it, and so I give acknowledgements to her and the mahi she did. I studied business when I was at school, but I started my business life, I guess, when I was 15. But quick background on me, I live up in the beautiful far north or mid-north, Te Ika on Maui, in Whangarei, between Whangarei and Dargawal and Kaipara. My mum and my dad don't do business at all. They work for government. My dad's a police officer in youth education and iwi engagement, and my mum is the operational manager, regional manager for Statistics New Zealand. So very different from doing Māori, from doing business. No one else in my whānau does business, but for some reason I wanted to do business, and I continued to do it from the age of 15, starting through Young Enterprise, which is a scheme that happens at school, the Young Enterprise Foundation, and I give a lot of credit to them for helping and encouraging me to participate in business. And over that time, has been introduced, I opened 6 businesses, or turned my first school businesses into social limited enterprises, and more recently over the last 5 years have decided to move into social enterprise. So I'm now looking at splitting my time. I guess some of the key points that I wanted to talk about was just personal resilience at first. So breaking up resilience from business, and also talking about personal resilience. There's a whakatauki that goes, ka ora te whenua, ka ora ngā tangata. I don't know if anyone's heard that, but what it is if the whenua or the land is well, then the people are well. And so if we change that out, just 2 kopi there, if we changed out ka ora e au, so if I am well, ka ora ngā Pākehī, which is business. So if I am well, my business is well. And that's something that I wanted us to really think about. I try and use Indigenous knowledge in my business. So for me, that whakatauki is something that I can leave with you to go away and research. But yeah, again, talking about if my business is well, then I am well, and vice versa. If I am well, my business is well. And so the first, I guess, key note that I want everyone to go away and think about is their own personal health and hauora, what their journey looks like, what they look like. Do you have your own goals and set your own targets? Because if we don't have targets and we're not aiming for anything, then we're not achieving anything. So personal resilience is something that goes along business resilience, because if you're not personally able to feel like you're achieving, then your business is going to be affected by that too. So that's my first tip, I guess, is to go away and to think about your own journey, whether or not it's your own language or another language, or something that you want to do as that you've always wanted to do as a child. Maybe I wanted to learn how to do the Rubik's Cube in school. So it was a goal that I set myself during my studies. For a whole year, I learned how to do every single Rubik's Cube out there. But it wasn't just about doing the Rubik's Cube. It was about knowing that that was the same thing as my study, that I had to study and invest in myself, as well as investing into my own schooling. And the same thing goes with business. So personal growth and personal resilience. I guess the second thing that I wanted to share and talk about was the importance of making mistakes. Mistakes are what grow and build your resilience to begin with, and you can make them in your personal life as well as your own business life. And without making mistakes, you're never going to be able to grow. So I was really scared about making mistakes. I was really scared about being rejected and saying no, and having a lot of people look differently at me. So that's another, I guess, key point that I want us to talk about and really think about is if we've made mistakes in the past, it's actually how we are able to grow. And I guess through this whole COVID journey as well, we've been able to make mistakes the first round and then pick those things up into the second round. And we saw that with the way businesses adapted, and I guess everyone's been using that word that we don't really want to say, but the word pivot. So we pivoted to become online, enterprises at times or e-businesses, and then we pivoted again with the second lot of lockdown. And so making mistakes, I guess, is really, really, really important when we want to be able to grow in our businesses. And I guess the last point that I really want to touch on is that pillars, there are lots of different pillars in your life. And there's a whare tapawha model that has 4 different pillars. But then there's another whare tapawha model that is by Wiramu Gray, and he published it in 2017. And it's the whare order, te whare mauri order, sorry. And what it has is, it has Ranginui and Papatūānuku as the 2 foundations, one at the top and one at the bottom. You don't have to see these as, I'm not trying to push Māoridom or atua, but you can see these as your own parents or your own whānau, the people you look up to. One might be the foundation of the people that you aspire to be, and the other might be the people that have helped you, so that you've got 2 different supports there. In the middle, it has Mauri order, which is about your own life and well-being. And that's why I wanted to firstly touch on the fact that your own personal resilience is something that you need to think about, because you're right at the center of your business. And the other models, I'm sure we've all heard them at some stage: a whānau, tinana, hineraru, and wairua. And those can be transformed into different parts of your business. You can talk about your business culture. That might be the wairua of your business. You could talk about the tinana, so the actual people that you're investing into. And you can change out some of those pillars. And so I guess the important thing to think about at first is that you are your business. You are the center of your business, and then everything else comes around you. And it might not be that you're an individual in your enterprise, so you might have other multiple business partners, but you're all at the middle there. You're all the ones that are holding up that whare. And so when a pillar falls down, and I'm sure everyone's had a moment when they've relied on somebody else and that other person hasn't come through, and it might not be that they're in your business, but they might be a different business that you interact with. When one of those pillars falls over or is broken or is not working and holding the weight, all the weight starts to shift, and sometimes you feel yourself more pressurized in the middle because the person in the middle of the house or the whare is actually the person that's holding all the weight. And so you need a way to distribute that to others. So the kōrero behind that, I guess, is a reminder that we can't do business on our own, and you have to rely and have others help and support and be some pillars in some way. And I guess we saw that with the government and the whole shutdown and the lockdowns that we've just been through, and we're still going through at the moment. Some of us are in level 3, some of us in level 2. Hopefully at some stage we'll be back in level 1 shortly. But we rely on people, other tangata, other people are a pillar in our business, a very important pillar, because they support our business through either awhi or aroha, and in some cases pūtea as well. So investing into your business, investing into you, buying your products. And so we have to think about how we can move and transfer that weight so it's not such a big problem. I guess I'm not too sure how much longer I've got to talk, but I just wanted to run over those things again just quickly for us to just wind up, is that your business relies on you. That's a very important thing to think about. You are your business relies on you. So ka ora e au, ka ora te Pākehī. I am my business is me, or the life of my business relies on me. Any way you want to translate that. Making mistakes only helps you grow your business and your resilience, and there are different pillars, so you can't do everything alone. I've been able to do business because of that, because of the fact that I've worked with other people and I've being able to build relationships. I'm not going to sit here and say that lockdown's been easy. My business, a lot of my businesses rely on face-to-face engagement. But if you have a good rapport and you're able to build a good way in terms of relationship with other people, then they're more likely to come back and help you and support you in some way. So building some grassroots connections rather than just surface level connections is really important in a business. It's actually, the bloodline is, I think everyone's been talking about, but people are the bloodline of your business. So everyone needs to go back to actually talking to their customers and really engaging rather than just the pop in and out of the store. You don't want to be the person that's just serving coffee. You want to be the person that's, while they're at the coffee machine, asking them how their day is, those sorts of things. I know it takes a really long time, but I'm sure that other speakers will talk about time management. But the small part from that is that every little minute that you invest into your business will hopefully come back in the long run. And I've been able to see that. I guess I can vouch for it. Is that although stuff doesn't come back the way that you want it and immediately, it's about the longevity and of the relationship and being able to push forward and move forward. So with that, I guess I'm going to wrap up there. I'm not too sure if it was too long or too short, but I encourage everyone to go out there and be authentically themselves in your business, because people want you to be who you are. And that's what I've been really proud to be able to say. I've been myself in my own businesses for a while now. So nā mihi nui kia koutou I te whānau, kia kaha ka mai ka manawa nui, and back to you, Sharneece and team. Thank you so much for having me and listening.
Yes, no, thank you so much, Sharneece. Wonderful insights for me to also understand, like, for a person to handle multiple businesses and multiple entities, it's definitely also a good way of having multi-stream of income, where people should also be now looking at, rather than focusing only on one because of the whole uncertainties that we are in. So no, that's a good insight. Thanks so much, Sharneece. I put back to now Anand.
Sharneece, thank you very much. And there is definitely something to think about. And I've also jotted down a couple of questions, as I'm sure others have. So please make sure you have your questions ready for our speakers, and we'll have a session right at the end. I now take this opportunity to welcome Bronny Jacobson. She is a very experienced business person. She's been in the business sector for more than 2 decades, been with big names like Pumpkin Patch, Warehouse, and even had a stint in Sydney recently. And in her last assignment, when she came back about 3 years ago, she worked with Sin7, which is an IT company based in the CBD, very actively involved in e-commerce. That's an area I am in, so that's how I know that company. And now she has taken the time out, and she is keen to share some of her ideas, experiences, how we can best handle the situation that has been kind of imposed upon us for more than a year now by what's going on in the world, and how we should best deal with it. Please welcome Bronny.
Thanks so much. And oh my gosh, Sharneece, you're amazing. That was really inspirational. And I'm just so grateful to have had the opportunity to hear you tonight. And thanks everybody also for the opportunity to be here. I'm going to just speak a little bit on both time and resilience. And I've got some notes here, so I hope we get through it. What I love about doing these kinds of things is how things dovetail into one from another. So I think you'll see something that Sharneece has already talked about, and that will flow through some of what I'm talking about too. So I love it how that works. But here we go. So you will have all heard that saying, you know, that time is money, but I would actually argue that time is way more important than money. In fact, when you spend your money, you've got the opportunity always to earn it back again. But when you spend your time, it's gone forever. It is literally a non-renewable resource. So when you waste it, it's so much more impactful in my view than just wasting money. I think that little saying would be better defined as time is opportunity, or time is potential. It gives every one of us and every organisation the opportunity to build things, to grow things and to make things better. We can either waste the time or we can maximise it. But when the time's gone, it's gone for good. So you can't recoup it and restore everything that you may have lost over the last 7 weeks or the last 7 years or even the last 7 days. The only thing you can do now is ensure that you maximise your time opportunity from here on. There's a natural correlation between time and resilience, which are the two subjects that I'll touch on tonight. So I'm going to try and connect them a little bit together. So resilience, what does it even mean to be resilient? None of us are born resilient. It's not an innate talent. We are born utterly helpless and dependent and vulnerable. And as we grow, that's how we develop our resilience. We learn how to get up when we fall over. We learn how to be disappointed and get over it. We learn how it feels when we don't win or when we don't get our way. And we learn how to deal with being misunderstood or disliked. We certainly learn that life isn't fair. Very often, these aren't easy lessons, but they're absolutely essential for us to be able to function as healthy adults. If there was no disappointment, no challenge, or no failure, there's also way less opportunity to grow a personal strength and a resilience. And it also develops our compassion for others as we see them go through the stuff that they go through. There was that old ad ages ago, and possibly some of you are too young to remember it, but resilience doesn't happen overnight. We build it over time. So resilience becomes strength in action, actually. It's not being in denial when things are hard, or it's certainly not the absence of feeling pain or pressure. But I think it's the ability to acknowledge and overcome despite it. It means that we're more likely to recover more quickly from difficulties. It's like a fitness of spirit. And it's the difference between us surviving or us potentially becoming irrelevant. It's the fuel to persevere. It's also the fuel to innovate and to diversify and to take action and to change. And finally, it's the passion and the desire to always keep improving, never giving in. And of course, resilience in the context of business is exactly the same. It's an absolutely necessary ingredient for a business to not only survive, but to thrive. But just as time plays a part for us individually to learn resilience, it's also part of how we have to learn in business as well. Business life, as every one of you listening to this knows, is all about challenge. I've often said that if you go into business, essentially you're there to solve problems. And if you talk to anyone who's been in business for any length of time at all, they've got story after story of tough times and how they got through it. The businesses that survive are the businesses that have actively built their resilience over time. There is no point, though, being impacted over and over without using those times to build up some resilience muscle, if you like. And the muscle doesn't grow by default just because you've gone through a hard time. It actually needs to be a deliberate focus. What do we do with it? So just like a physical muscle, we need to get into a figurative gym to grow and strengthen our resilience muscle. We need it to be strong enough to carry the weight of the next challenge and to last the distance. So what are some of the ways that we can use that precious commodity of time to build our business resilience? First of all, I reckon there's a couple of foundational premises. The first one is to understand that what we've done previously will absolutely not be the answer always. Maybe it's not even the answer next week. And the second thing is, we've got to understand that how you come through the challenge is largely up to you. And by you, I mean the community of you. So you with your support structure, as Sharneece has just talked about, but it's largely up to you and your surrounding support team. So the more self-reliant as a business or as a person within that business and robust you are, the better. So what can you actually practically do, whether you own a business or you're part of a business? And remember, this isn't just a casual thought, not, oh yeah, I thought about that, that was a good idea, but this is, how do I start to get this into a bit of a fitness regime? First of all, spend some time and think about what you've learned from previous challenges. What happened? What worked? What have you now put in place to do things differently? What were those lessons? Ahead of things, why don't you try and imagine worst case scenarios and model them? do a real risk assessment. Whatever you're working in, just go, do some what if scenarios. And always just take a little bit of thought to think about what's actually in my control and what is out of my control. Even outside of any external challenge, how are you disrupting yourself, your own business? What do you think is going to keep you ahead? What do you think the market's doing? How well are you connected to your customer to know what they actually need from you, to help them, to serve them, whatever the business is that you are in? Disrupt yourself. What are you doing that's innovative? There's so many businesses now that are allocating a percentage of time to their staff to specifically work on innovation. It can be little things, it can be big things, but what can you try? What's new? And don't forget that innovation, and again, Sharneece, you touched on this, it's about trying stuff. It's not always going to work. And in fact, often it won't work, but that's okay. That's what innovation is all about. It's about taking the risks, thinking outside the square, giving it a go, learning from it, coming back, and then trying the next thing. But innovation is key to a business that is resilient. Is it possible for you to diversify? And we've talked about that already. Digital, yeah, online, absolutely. Different platforms that are now available. Is there some sort of training you could offer with whatever else it is that you're doing in your business? Whatever it is, it's ideal if you don't have all of your eggs in the same basket. The other thing I reckon is really important that a lot of people miss is you need to ruthlessly and ongoingly look at your current processes. If there's wastage within them, whether it's time being wasted because your processes aren't efficient, whether it's money because you've just got a slack budget and it's just getting spent without too much really intense hand-holding of it, maybe you've actually got too many people doing too little and there's too little output. We don't like thinking about that, but sometimes we need to just look overall, where is your business potentially not very lean, and make some changes. Maybe redeploy people to something where they can actually output something that's more productive for you. Maybe spend money in different areas actually that will also be more productive for you. Maybe it's time. Maybe you're not spending your time in the right areas of your business, but get lean. So the fitness analogy really stands up there actually. Getting fat, if you like, out of a business or an organization should be done way before there's ever a crisis that forces your hand. Nobody wants to have a COVID lockdown and make a whole lot of people redundant because they actually hadn't really streamlined their business prior to that. That is not how it should work. Everybody is desperate at that point. Just gently make sure your business is running in a really tight, good way. I know I'm probably speaking to the converted actually, because most of us in business do try and do that all the time, but you'd be surprised at how much stuff just keeps on going without having a really good scrutinizing look at it to see whether it's the most effective use of whatever that resource is. The other thing is to keep a bit of a check on your expectation. While we are wired to always look for continual growth, some situations actually mean that just surviving should be counted as a win. And actually, growth at human cost should not be counted at a win. So there's all these little nuances of this. So check your expectations. There are always going to be interruptions to the best case forecast. Doesn't matter what analysis has gone on, there's always going to be interruptions to whether that forecast can play out. So dial down your expectations if you need to. And then I would really advise you to build up a contingency fund, an emergency backstop, a bit of a buffer somewhere. You can't actually always rely on anyone to bail you out, particularly the government. The government do the best that they can do with what they have got, but actually they are involved in bureaucracy. They are not business people. So actually the more we can do for ourselves, the better. None of these ideas, of course, is a one-hit wonder or a quick fix at all. It's just like a single workout at a gym once a year is going to do nothing for your fitness. But building resilience is actually just part of the daily discipline of running businesses and being holistic about how you view things. Your time is precious, but this is the stuff that it's worth spending time on if you want to build business resilience. Then just operationally within a business, there are a few things we can do there. We've obviously got to optimize how we use time in a business day to day, because we need to be lean and efficient, and by default, that'll make us more resilient. So depending on what your business is, make use of good tools. There are a truckload of amazing tools, particularly online. There's calendar tools like monday.com, or even just learn to use your Google Calendar really efficiently and effectively. There's Kanban boards like Jira or Trello, which are brilliant to be able to put all your tasks in a priority order and see where they're actually at any point in time. There's HR systems. There's online whiteboards like Miro, which means that you can collaboratively work with people, but do it all online. Brilliant in lockdown. So use the technology that makes things more effective, particularly when it's stored in the cloud, of course. It's so safe, it's so available, and it's so shareable wherever you are and whatever happens. And I know sometimes tech can feel a little bit intimidating, but actually, again, resilience is about, sometimes you've got to bite the bullet. You can't keep doing what you've always done. So I think the ongoing learning for all of us is, yes, it's not comfortable, but it actually opens doors, makes us more resilient, gives us more strings to our bow. Another really simple and obvious thing is stop being interrupted every day by emails, Slack or phone calls. Just set a couple of times a day, 2 or 3 times a day, to respond deliberately. It diverts the way you're thinking. Your concentration is broken, so you're much less effective. So block out time on your own calendar so you can concentrate on specific tasks. If you run a business, make sure everyone is really clear on direction and priorities with those time-bound actions associated, and make sure they know how those outcomes can be achieved. One great little exercise that I really like, which is good personally or good for a business as well, it's actually something that Warren Buffett talks about. He says, write down your goals, and you can do this for a business or you can do this personally. You might end up with, say, 25 of them. Take the top 5. Put them in a little line down the side of your page and do 2 columns. One column is interest, one column is importance. Just take those top 5 and then glance at the other 20 or whatever's on your list. The other 20 are the things that actually distract you from achieving those first 5. Then take those 5 and in the interest column, put a factor from 1 to 5 on the importance. And in the importance column, factor from 1 to 5 or 1 to 10, multiply them out and you'll see which of the top 5 is really your top 1 and top 2. It's just a really good exercise to start to really prioritize what you want to do in your business or what you want to do personally. And then obviously that translates through to your business if you are leading a business. If you want to spend your time well, this is why this is so good. What you decide to do, what you decide not to do is actually just as important as what you decide to do. When other things come up through the week, well, prioritize them as well. You can use a Kanban board, like I mentioned before, which is a great way of keeping things in priority. Or a lot of you will be familiar with Stephen Covey's quadrant with the urgent and important, not important, not urgent quadrants, etc. Pop them straight into whichever one it is. Often when people's requests are really, really urgent, we feel like something's on fire and we've got to address that immediately. But if you've got a way of categorizing it, you don't have to jump just for urgency. You should be working in the important quadrant, not the urgent quadrant only. Then at the end of every day, I like to write up what my focus is for the next day. And the reason I do it at the end of the day is because you're already in that headspace. You don't waste time the next day coming in and thinking, right, what was I going to be doing today? Just writing it down takes the pressure off for the next morning. The other thing I've always done is keep a pen and paper by the bed. When you're in business, it can be so stressful at times, and you go to bed, you wake up, you're thinking of the next thought, just scribble it down beside the bed. Your brain can't relax properly if it's trying to remember what it is that you're thinking about that night. So pop it down, give yourself a decent sleep. And remember to keep checking in with your team as you go through in the business to make sure they're doing okay. Everyone sits on a scale of resilience, and it varies. Some days you can feel really resilient, other days not so much. and everyone processes the scenarios quite differently. We've got to understand that. We've got to acknowledge it, support it, and encourage people through the journey, just as we need all of that for ourselves. And then last, but certainly not least, and Sharneece talked about this as well, there's a real personal element to business resilience. Whether you own a business or you're part of one, uncertainty and pressure is part and parcel of what we do. If you want to make your business resilient, then you personally also need to be strong and resilient yourself to be able to muster the energy to outwork it. Again, it's the same. It takes time and ongoing attention, but it is absolutely where you should be spending that very precious commodity of your time. Socrates said, "The unexamined life is not worth living." It's actually my favorite quote because it challenges me often to think, yeah, why am I doing what I'm doing? So I would really encourage you to thoughtfully think of some of these things for yourself personally. We each need to know what our personal why is. Why am I doing what I'm doing? What is the powerful, persuasive reason that gets you up in the morning to face the challenge of the day? If you're just going through the motions, it isn't going to sustain you. If it doesn't align with your personal values, you're going to end up in real internal conflict. I'd really encourage you also to read Simon Sinek's book, which is called Start With Why. It's really challenging. Working hard at something we don't care about actually just causes stress, but working hard in something that we're really passionate about is passion. When your values align to what you're doing, that provides a real fuel to persevere through the tough times. And actually, if you're a business owner, your business needs a powerful why as well. Why is your business essential? And yes, I would actually put in here, every single business is essential for those people that are working in them. And I wish that was a little bit more widely acknowledged in the times that we're currently in. But what is it that your business does that sets it apart from all the other versions of your business in the market? What problem are you solving in a unique way? What is the why? Then the next thing is you've got to spend time looking after the physical body that you live in. It's just like time. We get one body and we're in it for our whole life. And once it's gone, it's gone. How are you going in terms of looking after it? It is part of stamina. It's part of resilience. We have to look after our physical and our mental health. Just really practically, your brain needs a diet and a level of fitness that will help it function optimally. And you're the only person feeding it. So I would encourage us to stop putting things into our body that erode our physical and mental resilience. There's other really easy things you can also do, like psychologists say we need to spend a couple of hours outside every single week, preferably in nature. That helps our brain. We also need, as most of us know, 30 minutes of exercise a day, and we've probably been doing more of that when working from home in the last few weeks. But these are these are not nice to haves. They're not add-ons once you've finished work. They are essential. They have a tangible effect on our ability to do the other things optimally. And then for those of us who are a little bit wired to be workaholics, we actually have to learn to take breaks. Some of us are so responsible and hardworking that we find it hard to pull ourselves away, to the detriment actually of all sorts of things, including our families. And then when we do take a break, we're just too tired to do anything. But even an elite athlete knows the importance of taking a break to restore and repair themselves. We really also need to do the basics of looking after our mental health. We've got to get good sleep. That may mean that we have to make different choices around things like food, alcohol, the amount of time we spend on screens and what time we turn them off, etc. A really great thing to do is to learn how to breathe diaphragmatically. You can do it anywhere. It's breathing from your belly. And it sounds so crazy, but this is the one scientifically proven thing that lowers cortisol in your bloodstream. Cortisol is a stress hormone, and cortisol will make sure that you do not work optimally. So it's things like that that affect your mental health, and we've got tools that can improve it dramatically. I would say as well, we're sometimes not very good at acknowledging how we're feeling. We shouldn't be pretending. We need to talk to someone that we trust and process through when we feel like our resilience isn't there. It's not a weakness. You're not going to be the only one feeling what you're feeling, but the suppression of fear or anxiety actually just increases the stress and absolutely guarantees that you are less effective. And not to mention, it is so not good for you health-wise. It's a real strength to acknowledge this stuff and to take action to process it. I guess in summary, resilience isn't gritting your teeth and getting through it. It's having tools in place to get you through. And one of those is being real about what's going on. I'd also encourage you to practice gratitude for all the things that have not been going well. And goodness knows there's plenty of those in the last few weeks. There is a lot that we have to be grateful for. The only time we've got to start to put some of these things in place is now. So just to recap, resilience is essential for us personally, and it's essential as we operate in business. It's not born in us, so we need to specifically take the time to grow it and to build our resilience muscle in all areas of our life. And the only time to do that is now, because once the moment's gone, it's gone for good. Time is way more precious and in much shorter supply for you than money. So I would really encourage you to spend it wisely. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Thank you, Bronny. That was incredibly helpful, amazing, full of ideas and practical suggestions on how we can do. Friends, we are a little bit behind schedule. I apologize for that, but I am sure you have been digesting and taking in and understanding every bit of what the speakers have to tell us. Just one last thing to what Bronny said. Most of the tools she mentioned are incredible and they have a free version. So feel free to try those out. They are life-changing for business management. Without further ado, let me invite, last but not the least, in fact, our most anticipated speaker, Honorable Michael Wood. I don't think he needs an introduction, but it's my duty to tell you a couple of words about him. Michael Wood is the Minister of Transport and Workplace Relations and Safety, Deputy Leader of the House, and MP of Mount Roskill. He was first elected to the Parliament in 2016 in a by-election, and while in opposition, he has been Labour spokesman for transport, revenue, and customer affairs. He became Labour's senior whip in mid-2019. Without further ado, Michael Wood.
Kia ora koutou katoa. Good evening all, and thank you, Anand, for your introduction. Thank you, Shailesh, for organising tonight's event with the broader team. It is nice to see you here, Anand. Anand and I periodically meet up together on the 25 bus between Linfield and the city centre, which we both take into town sometimes.
Good memories.
But obviously, the current circumstances mean there's not so much of that going on. So very good to see you and everyone else. And look, good on all of you for coming together for this forum. I know that we're in challenging times, and I just think it's really admirable that those of you, many in small business, who are perhaps facing those challenging times at the moment, aren't just sort of putting your heads down and feeling bad about it. You're actively engaging with one another, reaching out, seeking to learn and share ideas about how you can become more resilient. I just want to pick firstly, can I also acknowledge my two other panelists, Sharneece and Bronny, and say that I found your contributions really, really interesting. And yeah, Bronny said something that was really on point, which is that effectively there's an important role for everyone here in the system, but ultimately it's you who know your business. And for us in government, we can't solve all of the problems. We're not the ones who have the expertise about how to best run your business. But there is a role for all of us to work together to try and create a thriving and successful economy and society. In the comments that I make, I just want to really touch on a couple of areas. The first is to just give a bit of a sense about the current environment and what we're likely to face over the next couple of years, which perhaps sets the scene for why resilience is so important and is going to continue to be so important for businesses small and large, in fact. And then a few comments about a little bit about what the role of government can be in working with you and other businesses to ensure that we do have as much resilience as possible across our system. The first thing I would say is that very often when I'm speaking with business audiences, I know that what business is really keen on is certainty. And I think what is particularly challenging about the current moment is that if we're going to be really honest with you, and we should, uncertainty is the new normal. And I don't think that anyone in politics or government can promise you certainty in the coming period. We are living in very challenging times. We obviously have the COVID pandemic right in front of us at the moment. And whereas perhaps at the beginning of this year, many of us felt that by the end of this year, we might be seeing a pretty quick transition back to a reconnected world where things were quite a lot more normal than they were. Most of the evidence that is before us is that we're going to face a relatively long period of COVID disrupting us in one way or another. As a government, we do believe that it is important that we find ways to reconnect with the world as we get that vaccination rate up really, really high, and that's going to help a lot. But things are still going to be strained, things are still going to be difficult. The reconnection is going to take some time, and there are ongoing risks because of the virus. Now, we're currently dealing with Delta, a variant that arose about 6 months ago initially. It's possible that we'll deal with new variants in the future that might change things again. And I don't say any of this to depress people or make people feel worried, but I guess just to convey that reality that I think we are going to need to continue to work together across private sector, public sector, community to brace ourselves to the reality of that uncertainty and to get ourselves into a space that is resilient as possible. On top of that, we do face other challenges which will require us to be resilient because of the inherent uncertainty that they create. We're living in quite choppy geopolitical times. We are seeing emerging conflict between China and the United States. We've already seen some impacts there in terms of global flows of trade. We face a global supply chain at the moment, which primarily because of COVID is extremely stretched. And those of you who are involved in import and export activities or building in particular will be painfully aware of that at the moment. And the estimates are that it's probably going to take a couple of years before we fully see our way through that back to more normal, more reliable trade flows as well. We face other changes which have been moving for quite a bit longer, but perhaps have been accelerated by the current conditions. For example, the rapid acceleration of the digital economy and of people choosing to engage online for the goods and services that they want in their lives. I think I might have said the last time that you had one of these gatherings, Sharneece, that at my house over the course of this lockdown, now we've had a box arrive on our front doorstep nearly every day from things that my wife's been ordering to keep our household going. And I think that's going to be a reality of the way that we move forward. And that's going to pose challenges to some of the business models that people have got very used to over the years. So this change and this uncertainty are going to be with us. And I think businesses who want to be successful are going to need to sort of factor that in rather than imagining that very quickly it's just sort of going to go back to how it was back in 2019. And I think that's probably, as I can't give you individual business advice, but that is something that I think I would recommend that people really think about and reflect upon in terms of how they develop resilient businesses. The second thing that I want to touch on is that concept of relationships. And I think that's one of the things that we can really, really be proud of in New Zealand over the past 18 months, because actually our track record as a country over the most disruptive period that we have had, and I'll say this really clearly, since the Second World War, has been that we have shown across our business sector and our society that we are pretty resilient. You know, there have been people who have hurt along the way. There have been businesses that haven't made it through. But compared to so many places around the world, people and businesses and communities have found ways of adapting and supporting one another and making it through these challenging times. And I do think a lot of that has been about the fact that we have been good on the relationship front. I'll give an example from today. Today I was in a meeting with senior business leaders from Business New Zealand and some of New Zealand's major companies, the Council of Trade Union and other key union leaders with the government and what we call a Future of Work Forum. And this is a forum that we have had going for several years, in which we have all of us together, business unions representing workers and government, working together on some of the big challenges that we face, that shift to a digital economy. That's what that's going to mean for the workforce. We're thinking about things, and I mentioned this again last time, like the concept of social unemployment insurance, so that if people lose their jobs or small businesses don't make it through some of these challenging times, we can have a greater steadiness of income for people in those times. So we're at a sector level, we've got pretty good relationships. We sometimes argue about individual policies, but we've got the ability to work things through. In the small business world, I've seen amazing, what I can only call solidarity between communities and local small businesses, where people have really felt strongly that it's important to go out there when we get out of level 4 and get down to level 3 and go and support the local small businesses as much as possible. I've seen great relationships, often but not always, between small businesses and their landlords, where they've come to really fair arrangements about how to get through these challenging times. So I do just think that's a great strength, which has helped so many people and so many businesses to get through, the fact that there are strong relationships in place across our communities. And I think that is a real key to resilience. Very often it is hard to get through by yourself, but if you've got networks and relationships and trusted people in your personal life, mentors, other businesses, partners in government that you can work with, then that gives you a lot more to fall back on. So I think that's something to really invest in and think about as well. So look, those are probably the key comments that I'll offer. I think, as I signaled, Sharneece, I actually do have to head off fairly shortly to my next Zoom meeting. But I just leave you with those two things. What I think is probably the reality, that people are going to need to be resilient given the uncertainty that we face in coming years. The importance of good relationships to make sure that we can get through those challenging times. And if I can just confirm at the end of all of that, the role that we see, that there's a positive role for government in those relationships. Our government does believe in being active and partnering. One of the ways that we have gotten through this period has been through that exactly. At the beginning of COVID, Grant Robertson said that that we couldn't run everyone's business, we couldn't solve every problem, we couldn't save every job, but we could make sure that there was, he said, cash flow and confidence were the two key things that we could provide. And those have been really key to helping many people get through. So let's keep up those relationships between private and public sector and community. And I've got a great sense of confidence and optimism that we can build a really resilient business sector and a resilient Aotearoa New Zealand. So thanks again for the opportunity to say a few words, and really hope the rest of the discussion goes well.
Yes, no, thanks very much. I pick up on Bronny's statement, and I love the way of resilience that we are here to talk about. When she mentioned tools to explore, there are a lot of tools which Anand also picked up, and there is a lot of tools which are free, and which, as you mentioned in my last meeting as well, the digital boost and the digital area that people can register for free. But then picking up on that, and then the prevention strategies for these uncertainties time, which I picked up from Bronny's statement, and then prioritizing. And then I picked up from you relationships and the networking and the government relationships with the businesses and small businesses. So resilience is definitely, these are the two things, and being in the area of business advisory. And I really appreciate all the people who have come here as small businesses. Have definitely must have helped a lot about this information that we have passed on. But moving forward and going with this, as we have always shown the resilient factor, when you mention about the World War, and after that, this is the most challenging times that we are having all. I wanted to ask Michael, is like, what's the best strategy at this moment? There is no strategy as such where we can say that this works or that works, but it's all trial and error that we are doing, but we are just supporting each other to do that. And forums like that is one of the key things that I wanted to bring this and engage. But I wanted to make it further and see how government can come with these tools that Bronny was mentioning, and the prevention where the government can play a little part of supporting the businesses for preventing their uncertain times and prioritizing these businesses. So really some of the key areas that I take it, like I wanted to just highlight that government, it would be good to see some of the policies and strategies can be worked around for small businesses by the current government and the future. that we are going to be in this for a long time, and we don't know how much. But definitely it's a workaround processes that we could come along and bring some policies into that. As you mentioned about the social insurance policy and business insurance policies. So those kind of things definitely will help. But we just wanted to see how we can communicate that more faster to these businesses so that they can become more confident and resilient in that area. That is my question is for you to pass on the informations through your ministerial various government agencies to develop these relationships with the small businesses.
Look, thanks, Sharneece. I think it's a point that's really well made. There's actually a surprising amount out there in terms of sources of advice and support, and sometimes people aren't really aware of where to go. So the Honourable Stuart Nash, who's our Minister for Small Business, who we actually had, I was going to bring him to Mount Roskill. This was last month, and that couldn't happen. We had a little online session with him. Has been working quite hard over the last year or so to really set up much stronger channels, both through brokers, through advisory services, through really clear information that can alert people to the support that's available out there. And we can circulate some of that around, Sharneece, if that would be helpful, because there is a lot there. And again, it's not about saying that government can fix every problem or do everything. In the end, you people are the brains and the brawn of your own businesses who know best how to make your way through. But there are ways that we can work together to provide support, particularly at challenging times.
Thanks very much. You can take over now, Anand.
And with that, I'll just say my farewell as I head off to my next meeting. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you so much, Michael, for your great insights once again. And as I always like you to get invited for different topics to talk about, but also give us the reality check each time. And the more we engage with the government, as you rightly pointed out, would be much better to have that confidence in the business communities. Yeah. Cool. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much. Right. The forum is now open to all of you. If you have questions for the speakers or anything you would like to add or anything you'd like them to clarify, please, forum is open.
I got a few questions.
Go ahead.
But if anybody, I have asked my one question, but I have got a few questions, but anybody can ask before me. That's fine. I'm okay with that.
You go ahead, Sharneece. You set the ball rolling, and I'm sure we will join in. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, Bronny, I really appreciate that. Was great, one of a hell of a information that you provided in terms of lots of to take in, but lots of easy, simple ways that you mentioned, and people get bogged down in business, as you know, and you have been mentioning that over time. Simple things, people then like get distracted with emails, like simple emails, and they get distracted and then don't get the real work done. How do we really become more confident or positive frame of mind when you have got multiple things to do? And when you mentioned prioritizing, now that's the key. Prioritizing, is the prioritizing to be just where the money is, or is the prioritizing just where the business to be sustained? What would be your answer to that? How do we prioritize, and what do we prioritize?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. It's an interesting question, isn't it? Do you prioritize just where the money is? Well, some people perhaps would. I would emphatically say no. If I reflect on where I have always landed, how the most important things of a business, and I have spoken on this, often, for me, it is always people first, product second, process third, and then the profits will come. And I think always, and there would be people that would disagree with me who are much more, I don't know, I guess, driven by the finances. But my view is, if you get those things right in that order, it's always about people. And by people, I mean, it is not just your own team and your own people within your business. It is who are you serving? Every business, if you break it down, is there to serve, whether it's because you provide a service itself, or whether you are creating a product, regardless, you're still serving a customer. And so when I say people, it is about how well do you know that person, that actual profile of your customer, if you like. Who are they? What's important to them? How much can they afford? What are they feeling like in the middle of a pandemic? What's changing for them? So that's that side of it. There's obviously your own team. And then on the other side, if you're creating product, for me, it's always been about the people that are supplying that product. So I've spent many years coming to and fro from China, Bangladesh, places like that, where I have been in the places where our product was being made, because it is just as important to me that the people factor is all the way through the supply chain from the start to the finish. So first of all, people, you get that right. Then the next part of it is the product. The product has got to be to delight the person. So if I'm making a $6 t-shirt, it needs to be the most amazing $6 t-shirt for the person that has worked a minimum wage job and needs to clothe their child. They come in, they buy a t-shirt, and it lasts for 2 years, and they're like, oh my gosh, what an amazing product that was for $6. Or whether it's a $600 something, it's still got to be, the product has got to be robust. If it's software, make it software that's robust, that really serves what the customer needs. They've purchased it from you to help them. So that's the product side. And then you've got process. And I always say, and this is really where some resilience comes in actually. Once you get past a certain size, if you don't shore up what your processes are, everything will start to fall apart. It's like a body without a skeleton. It's fine if there's two of you. You just to and fro and it's easy. When I first started at Pumpkin Patch, I was the 5th person on board. We did everything from marketing to product to whatever. But after that, and it got bigger and bigger and bigger, you have to put process in or the whole thing falls apart. And my view is you get those things right in that order, and then the profits will come. Now, of course, you're not, if it's about looking after people, it's about looking after them wisely and obviously not risking the finances of the business, because then there's no business and no income for anyone. So all of these things, there's a fine juggle. But if you would ask me a hierarchy of what's important from my perspective, that's how it would play out.
That's definitely a good answer, Bronny. I really get that. I'm also of the view of that, like where there is people come first, then automatically everything follows. Because first and foremost is the mindset and the positivity around, and that only can be given by people rather than the product. Product can be looking good, but may not be good for everyone. But the peoples are definitely there for everyone to get the support or need it. So no, I 100% agree. Thanks very much for that. I completely agree with that.
My name is John Barley. This is the first time I've been on this forum. Hello.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I'm very interested in the pressure that is put on people to prevent burnout and fatigue. And also because I'm a firm believer that the health and well-being of the business owner is a fundamental foundation for the health and well-being of the business, and the two are closely linked. So my question to you guys is, where do you see your health and well-being for the health and well-being of your business, but also to comprehend and optimize the effectiveness and efficiencies daily with the pressures that you're under on a daily basis? And how do you measure that?
Good question.
I'm going to jump in just because I've got some thoughts. I think, gosh, I think in terms of getting a pulse on your staff, it depends on how big your team is. If it's big enough, then I would say there's great tools that you can use that are really simple, and you ask them, and if you've built a good culture, then your team will be open enough to say, this is how I'm feeling on a scale of 1 to 10. There's some very, very simple ones that you can do quite often and gauge it. If your team's much smaller, then it's harder to get them to do that kind of a thing, because they feel that they may be exposed and they don't want to reveal quite that much about themselves. But I think one of the things in terms of keeping a pulse on the health of your team is small enough, then build that relationship and that culture that you've got open, easy communication, and you can literally sit down with them and take a one-to-one pulse check. How are you doing? How are you feeling? If you've got one-on-ones built into the way your managers deal with their teams, then that should be something that happens in a one-on-one. It should be, how are you going? Are you feeling stressed? What's happening? Those kinds of things. In terms of you as a business owner or someone that's running a big team in a business, and your own state of mind and health being, how do you manage that? Yeah, well, I think that's why I wanted to include that piece on personal resilience, because I think we often are so caught up with the day-to-day and the pressure of it all that you are swamped by that. And actually, and I speak to myself in this because, you know, it is something I have to be extremely disciplined, and I wouldn't say that I'm 100% there, but are we eating the right stuff? Are we sleeping well enough? Are we doing everything physically possible to optimize ourselves? And then if I'm not surviving, am I going to go and talk to someone? Have I got someone that I can go and say, I'm sinking and I don't know what to do and I'm feeling really low? And I think it's a mixture of those two things from me. And again, I'm not sure if I entirely answered your question, but those are just my thoughts.
Fair enough, thank you.
I'll just connect what Bronny just said with what Sharneece said right at the beginning, that if you are good, the business is good. And if the business is good, you are good. So it's that oneness. And as Rumi, one of the greatest thinkers and writers of the past, has very well said, I am not the dancer, I am the dance. So we are all into it together, whether we are employees, business runners, business itself. It's the whole entity which will either do well or not do well. Differentiating and separating is not really going to work in the long run. And just another thought, as an academic, I apologize. I like to hear my own voice. And if there is a chance to add my 2 cents, I try and jump in. But there's a very interesting story, which I will tell you in less than 1 minute. One of the greatest books ever has been hailed as Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. It's not about cryptocurrency. It's not about gambling or making money in casinos. It is about goals and how to be successful. So if you haven't, please make sure you read it. It is a life-changing book. I keep reading it all the time. And each time I learn something new. It's available for free on the internet because it's from the the copyright is over. And this is based on some research conducted by a big business person called Andrew Carnegie, or Carnegie, as some people say. He commissioned Napoleon Hill, and he said, study all the successful business people and try to find a common theme. And that's what the book is about. So I'll let you read it. But one of the stories about this, which I've heard, is that apparently Andrew Carnegie was a very big steel magnate and a very rich and successful business person. One day, a kind of man in tattered clothes and rough and unkempt, and that kind of a person, looked like a beggar or somebody, doesn't know what he's doing in life. He came in and he asked to see Andrew. And Andrew was a person who would never say no to anyone. So he said, yeah, send him in. And the guys came with a very thin, empty envelope and said, inside this, I have a secret which will make you amazingly successful in life. Pay me $25,000 and it's yours. And Andrew always took everyone seriously. He said, well, I'm not convinced. So what I will do is I'll make you a counter offer, give it to me, I will read what's inside. And if I think it is worth it, I promise to pay you. The money is not a concern. It's just that I don't believe you upfront. And they said, yeah, the guy said, it's fine. He took the packet, he opened it. Inside was a sheet of paper with just 2 lines. He looked at it and he told his secretary to pay the guy $25,000. And then they asked him what was written there. He said, just 2 lines, plan what you will do today and do it today. And he said, these were some of the most profound learnings, so simple. So coming back to Shailesh here about prioritizing and all that, we spend a lot of time planning, but very often we don't check back and see whether we have accomplished what we planned. So yeah, was my 2 cents to the discussion.
No, that's brilliant. That's good. Very good.
That's a good one.
Alish, just quickly, am I able to just add
Yeah,
to what Bronny
absolutely.
said?
Yep.
Kia ora, John. I didn't see you before on the Zoom, but I've seen you now, so good to hear from you. But 3 of my businesses are social enterprises, so they're based on people. So I feel like I definitely need to answer or at least contribute to the things that Bronny was saying. People, I believe, are the center of the business, and Bronny talked about that before too. So I do see health and well-being being something that sometimes us as business owners don't like to focus on, because sometimes some people can see it as like a money pit where they might be throwing a lot of their money, or what they deem to be a lot of money, and getting no return. However, without the people in your business, you won't be able to do the work. So I really like to encourage business owners to think about investing into their staff. There's some really great things, like I don't know how big your organization is, but EAP is something that I just don't think that staff sometimes utilize, but also business owners don't really think about. And that's like a service that you can pay for your staff members to be able to go away and have counselling session. It's a really good way that you're not the one that's getting loaded with the information, because sometimes we like to have one-on-one conversations, but the information that they're giving us, we then feel the burden, because we're the ones that have to pay their wages, and we start to feel a pressure. And so sometimes it is good to look at those outside sources and really encourage our staff to utilize those things. We can pay a subscription to EAP, or some organizations are able to get that service for free, but it's something that organizations should really think about and consider when they do have staff, because they can offer that as a service. The other things I just want to quickly touch on is team culture and vision. Sometimes if we don't share the culture, or the team culture that we're trying to create, and what the vision and the goal is, our team doesn't know what path they're supposed to be on or what it looks like. So making sure that cohesively we have a vision, and we can build a team culture and allow people to bring in, and I'm not talking about culture, who we are, but us together as a work team, what kind of culture do we want, and making sure that it's not a toxic environment that we're working in. So allowing our team to actually build that, rather than us as the boss. So not saying that this is the culture that I want and you have to fit into that square, but actually allowing them to create the culture, and then you as the boss come in and sit in and be amongst how they like to work. I've got my different businesses have it see me in a different light, and so I've made myself be able to, I guess, move into those different spaces, because I know the way they like to interact. Some of them like a really fun and happy culture. So our work environment has got a lot of music, and we like to have those sorts of things playing. And so, just allowing them to build the culture so that it's more harmonious and they can actually get things done. And the last thing I want to talk about is just the comms. The way that you communicate to your staff members can sometimes have a negative effect as well. So just really thinking about the comms and the way in which we approach our staff and talk, because that can have an effect as well. I like to send a weekly email just catching up with everyone, giving a general overview of where I am, but giving some supportive messages, and whether or not the team's happy with that or not, that's up to them if they want to read it. But it just lets them know that I'm there. I'm not just a person that's above, like I don't like to use the whole pyramid of being above somebody, but just letting them know that I'm a person. And an extra side note that I've got there is capacity plans. If you create a capacity plan or a work plan with your staff members, you'll know exactly how much pressure they're under. And so getting them to itemize the work that they're doing, the time that they think they're going to be able to spend or put towards that. And then at the end of the month or at the end of the week, actually putting in their actual hours so that you can see if they're being overloaded and whether or not they need help. And it's a really good way that you can start to say, actually, this person's had a lot of overtime, and we've actually tracked it and found out that this person is getting really close to burnout. And so capacity plans, if you don't know how to do one, I've got a template that I can send out, but definitely something that I think businesses should look at and doing with their staff members, just because sometimes we do have staff that go that extra mile, and we don't really see that until later on when the burnout starts to come. So yeah, so EAP, a team culture and a vision, and the comms and the capacity plan, and hopefully that's answered some of the questions.
Brilliant. That was great. That was absolutely spot on, Sharneece. And that was my question as well later. But I think Amit has got something. He's raised hand, so he can ask some question. It's good for someone.
Yeah, so I have question for Bronny. And yep, the question is like, we are talking about how to be resilient among ourselves. But the real-time issues are like, I was having this question for Michael, but he's not with us at this moment. So maybe Bronny can answer my question. Like, we are having too many problems at this moment. Like, we are having a freight problem, raw material issues. We still have the, people, we are not getting the staff for our companies. So how can we come up with all those issues? What is the exact solution? Basically, this is an event where we want people to get the solution out of this. So I will be happy that if you answer this question, if any solution over it.
If I could answer this question, I think actually, I think it would make a tremendous number of people very happy in the whole of the business sector. I think, honestly, I'm not sure that anyone can answer these. That if I look at supply chain issues on their own, these are things that are outside New Zealand's control. They're even outside the government's control, actually. We sit at the bottom of the world and our shipping is impacted by what is going on in terms of the shipping lines prior to anything even arriving in New Zealand. So I do think that is a real challenge, and I don't have an answer, and I wish I did. If I look at things like the skills shortage, I think what has to happen here, I think, I guess my frustration currently is that while Michael mentioned that we're going to be living in uncertain times, nobody would dispute that. None of us know what's going to happen with COVID. What I think we need to press the government for is a plan. So when are the borders going to open to those people holding visas that are desperate, to get back to their families? This is not even thinking about the 30,000 people that are trying to get in and can't get into MIQ. But also then when is the government going to have a process, a relatively safe process, to enable us to open our borders again and bring in the people that we need for the skilled labour shortages that we have, because this is across a number of industries. So I think, because again, it's out of our control to open the borders ourselves, what we have to do is say we need an answer. And I think maybe our media at the moment is very poor at saying, tell us what the plan is. And I think there are many of these kinds of things. What is the plan then? As again, Michael mentioned, and some of you may have seen, I did a little piece on LinkedIn recently, about a week ago, but for example, yes, Delta is here, but we all knew that there was going to be something that came back into the country. We weren't going to escape it when the rest of the world didn't, but we had a year and no plan. And I think from my perspective, what I think we need to press the government for is a plan, not an answer. Nobody expects them to give us certainty, but what we need is an answer and as a plan that says we're going to actually divert some of the budget into the healthcare system. It used to be this, it's going to be that. We're going to retain our nurses and stop them wanting to leave to go to Australia as soon as those borders open again, because the nursing retention rate, for example, was just horrendous. But now more than ever, we need to value our people that are at the coalface in those areas when we know that this COVID or whatever other variety of epidemic might hit us afterwards. We need to shore up healthcare in a way that we have just neglected for decades and decades. And I would say the same thing about other areas. So I think there's a few really, you're right, there are things hitting us from all directions. I don't think any of us have the answer. What I think we need to do is press the government, push as many lobby buttons as we can to say, just give us a plan. Just like in business, we say far out. Things have changed. We can't do what we thought we were going to do. Now we're going to do this. And I think a democracy is way more than voting whoever is going to be in government. A democracy, a true democracy, is that from then on, it is the will of the people that is outworked, not silence. Do you know what I mean? So I don't want to be, I'm not ungrateful for what the initial steps were, not at all. However, we need a bit of a plan and a view for some of these things that are impacting business. How do we get skilled labour back into the country? There are so many categories and industries that are crying out for it. How do we reunite families that have been apart, some of them now for 2 years? That is appalling. How do we shore up our health system so that we can actually look after people when they become unwell? All of these things. And there's so many, many more. I'm touching the tip of the iceberg. And like I say, I would like much more open, bipartisan, positive, action-orientated sort of statements coming. So my view would be, we have to start being a little bit more vocal, without being antagonistic, because I think antagonism just shuts down conversation. We've got to have robust discussion. We've got to suggest things. We've got to just sort of prod for better answers. And I know I haven't got the answers to the questions that you raised. And really, in terms of resilience, it's, yes, we look for our own solutions in terms of what we can control, and we shore up all the other things so that we stay afloat and we do it as well as we can. But the stuff that's outside of our control, we've got to try and influence.
John, you had a question for him.
Yeah, I'm going to bounce back, and my background was in insurance broking. I had a business, my own insurance broking business, for 20 years. Been in the insurance industry for 40 years. And I left. I sold my business at the right time, I think. But I'm actually a survivor of burnout and fatigue. That's what interests me so much. And I've built up my business of right track from ground zero. But I've been very interested in the issue of health and well-being of people for the last 12 years. And I think, the subject of, why doesn't the government have a plan? Well, I'll put this to you. The number of businesses that I've spoken to in 20 years of running my own business and asking them to have a business plan and have a disaster recovery plan is zero. We seem to have a problem in this country of understanding exactly what a plan does. But coming back to the question of resilience and overcoming this whole particular issue and getting staff, I also wonder if we have, we need to actually step back and we need to actually say, this is our season. This is a season for actually having gratitude for the resources that we have Now, how do we optimize those resources that we do have so that we become even more efficient and more effective? So when the world market does open up, we're going to be in a far better position. And, you know, we talk about the issues of troubles with shipping because of one of the courses that I've created up online, teaching businesses or trying to teach business owners about marine cargo insurance and what it's about, because that's what I specialized in. I got the opportunity of working for a guy who lives in Jordan. He wants to come here to New Zealand, and he's making orders here in New Zealand, and he's asked me to help him for food products. And he's not worried about the shipping links. He's not worried about the supply chain. He's got that sorted out. He's not worried about it. He's basically getting on the job, and he's saying, I can do this. This is what I want. I can put it together. And he's just asking one or two other people to help him do the final touches. So I don't know where our number 8 wire mentality has gone, but I think it's an old cliche and it no longer applies. But I do think we have got the mentality and we've got the maturity in a lot of people to overcome the problems that we have, if we have and we can apply wisdom to the situation that we've got.
Yes.
Thank you for that, John. That was absolutely helpful.
No, I just want to make a final statement.
Sure.
With Bronny's wonderful speech and Sharneece's brilliant enthusiasm and speech of motivation and encouragement. Definitely, I have learned a lot today. So I wanted to just thanks very much to Sharneece and Bronny for bringing up that wisdom, as John mentioned. Definitely, it's a great opportunity for me to understand. But I take one point from Bronny is like, how do we, with Amit's question, which was, how do we tackle that difficult situation that we are in? And there is no silver bullet for any answer. But what I take from that, what you said, Bronny, is like, we got to be held accountable or raise a voice from the business, for the government to understand the issues and the concerns. And so this is a good forum or a platform to become a voice for these kind of concerns or issues that I definitely take from here. So very much appreciate, Bronny, that last statement that you made.
I need to talk to you all again. I would like to say thank you to Bronny and John. Basically, I like the way Bronny, explain what is the issue, how we can solve the issue, and what is the plan. We don't have any plan at the moment, so people must know all the plan from the government, so we can tackle. And secondly, John mentioned, like, whatever resources we are having at the moment, we should be happy for that. So what we think is like, why not we start our New Zealand made things. Basically, we don't have any people coming in, so we must raise up a voice for making up making New Zealand thing, and the voice should be raised for those things. Thank you.
Great. Absolutely valid.
Yeah.
Anything else, guys? Anyone?
Yeah, I just want to quickly talk to the points that John and Bonnie were saying, and also Ahmed. I think it was really good to hear those conversations. But I do want to remind everyone right at the start of Michael's speech, he said the government can't do everything. And I think I've been on a lot of these forums now where I've heard the same thing, where everyone's talking about we need to hear the government's plan, the government's plan, the government's plan. The other thing is that we need to just take ownership for our own business and sort of start to make our own plan on our own as well, and not just wait and rely, because the government will has their own time frame, but we need to have our own time frame as well, and not try and align it all the time. So some of those things we need to think about. Yes, it's good to have that idea about when the government's going to do all the changes, but just making sure that we actually have our own plan and we've mapped out what it looks like for us. I think what Ahmed's talking about is really great. A lot of my businesses, I've been fortunate to have them all New Zealand made or utilising New Zealand products. And I think the thing that I've been telling businesses, I do a lot of consulting work, is that actually if COVID is going to be around for the foreseeable future, we don't know when it's ever going to go away, if and ever it will. And so the future is that we need to learn to live with COVID. So if the country is locked down for the next 10 years, and that's a possibility. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but making that a plan and actually saying to ourselves, if COVID comes and we're shut down for a whole 10 years, how or what can my business do, and how can I actually rearrange those things? And sourcing other businesses or talking to other businesses that are in New Zealand that can do the same things and negotiating rates to actually be able to help each other is something that we can do now rather than looking for overseas freight. If there is stuff that we can do here, we should try and do it. And then the other thing is that we really need to utilize our own platforms, but also think about the e-commerce side of business too. It's far easier now, and people are more acceptable to buy and use things online and actually look at stuff. COVID was the best thing in terms of helping everyone move and become digital and pivot again, that word. But the innovation behind the internet, actually, a lot of older people were really reluctant to go online and buy something. Whereas now we've got people using apps and actually engaging in technology. So at this stage, when we're a digital sort of world, we need to start to capitalize and use those platforms. Things like our Shopify, a platform that we can build our own business website for very, very minimal costs. Places like Wix, where we can have free business websites and actually make our businesses go online. Those are the things that we need to sign up for. Facebook, like nearly every person I know has a Facebook page. I think there's only about 2% of my whānau and that don't. And so looking at your own friends and family, and that the fact that they actually have Facebook too, your business needs to have a social presence, some sort of social presence on Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram. If you're a product business, I really, really suggest Instagram. It's a really good product-based business. That's where a lot of people are driving their sales from. And the other thing is Canva. I don't know if anyone here is really using Canva, but Canva is a free digital app that you can use either on your phone, so you can walk around portably and do it, but also on a website. You can create ads, you can create social media tiles, you can create a website there, you can create business cards, but really thinking about those small things that you can actually start to build now while everyone is digital. Your business needs to be digital too. And whether or not it's a product, because the product's far easier, from shop to store or from shop to person's house. When you're an enterprise like me, where it's people-based, that's where the struggle is, because the people enterprises are the ones that can't go online. And so that's where the challenges should be. But I really encourage everyone to go out there, and if you do have a product business, is to look at what your social media is like at the moment, and if you even have a social media footprint, because that's a way right now that you can start to help your business gain some traction and get some money through the door while we're in these pandemics and these lockdowns. So just thinking that the government isn't going to be able to solve everything, neither are me or Bronny or anyone else in here. But these are some things that you can do for yourself now, and you can do it at minimal costs, or if not for free. So capitalizing on those things spending money in the places that you really need to spend money, and spending and investing time into other places that can benefit you later. So yeah, kia ora.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely valid, Sharneece and Bronny. The kind of tools you said, they are incredible, like I said. So many of them are free, or they have a freemium option, which means you can do a set of things for free. And for some of the advanced features, you need to pay. If anyone needs any help on tools like that, my business and I use them all the time. Happy to help out. Anything else, guys? Anyone?
I just wanted to introduce to everyone here. Ellie is here. Ellie, are you here still? I think you are. Yeah, Ellie is here. You're on mute. Okay. Can you, Ellie, just tell you what you do? And because when there was a lot of talk today about people, and I think Ellie is a good person for people. So
thanks so much.
The way you are into the business.
Thank you. So basically, I'm a HR manager for a labor hire company. So I'm dealing with clients, I'm dealing with people. So I can say that the people that I'm dealing every day is over 100 people, and sometimes even their family call me. And then the stuff that you guys provided, the information tonight, is very, very helpful for my business and people that I'm dealing with. So I'm really hoping to get a summarized, like an email of some bullet points about what happened tonight. Then I can forward it to the people that I know in the business for their family, because all this stuff are very support. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a valid point, because Bronny is a consultant, and so do as Sharneece, and the tips that they gave is absolutely amazing. Simple things, doesn't cost much, and you have to spend, but you have to spend wisely also, but it ticks the boxes and actually gets you started. So definitely worth doing that.
That's right. And also, like, if we have information about website of you guys, and then we can spread it out to people that we know. This is a good way of networking for people that they need help and support. They can get hold of everybody, and we can all support each other.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. So we got all the experts here. So, and we are here to help. As Anand said, his business is also here, and everyone is into that technology that we are dealing. How easily, because we know, as Sharneece mentioned, and I take her point very seriously, we don't know how long this COVID is going to be here. Whether it is going to be here 10 years or 9 years, we don't know. But if we start now adapting to the new norms that we can, then definitely we won't be dependent or interdependent. We will be independent, basically. And that's what I take the point. And again, it stresses the point and releases the point. The government can't do much, but we can be a voice for the government to do the right thing for what is needed for us, rather than putting anywhere money that needs to go.
And so I just want to say one thing that we were talking about, Bronny was talking about bringing some skilled people from overseas, or even for a long time, we were bringing laborers from other countries. Then now, because border is closed, you won't believe the amount of people that we have here, that we could be totally independent. If you can change the culture of people that they were thinking, no, I don't want to do this job. And now you could see that we could be totally independent. If we have 10 years of COVID, we have enough people to be independent in New Zealand and run the country without help from overseas, honestly.
Yeah, it goes back to the point which Sharneece stressed, that, you know, the more local we become, the more local products, the more local services that we interact, and that's where we support each other. Then we are not interdependent. We are just independent. Cool.
Yes, that's true. Thank you so much.
No, thanks very much, Ellie, for that introduction.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you.
Over to you, Anand, and then if that's it, I am happy.
Yes, I guess I think we have learned a lot. Time to reflect, maybe just make our own notes on each of them had to say. And thank you very much, everybody, and have a wonderful evening. Now my Harry, my
Thank you, Sharneece.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Yes. Thanks very much, everyone.